The Black Bag is a movie, it's a spy thriller directed by Steven Soderbergh, who's responsible for movies such as Out of Sight from 1998, Traffic from 2000, and the Ocean 11 Trilogy. And it's a spy thriller, starring Michael Fassbank and Kate Blanchett, George Woodhouse and Catherine Woodhouse, who is a married couple, and work with the British intelligence agency. The plot is basically that they have to identify a mole within the agency. And this mole, they leaked a secret cyber weapon to the Russians, because of course the Russians have to be the bad guys in a Hollywood movie. Problems arise though, as Catherine pointed out as the main suspect, because she has a lot of weird meetings with people like off record, so she's pointed out as the main suspect, and thus George is put in front of, like, he has to make a choice either to save his marriage or to go through with this mission. Basically, it goes through themes such as trust, betrayal, and basically dynamics of a relationship, as well as espionage. And I will also say it's more psychological than an action-based thriller movie. It's not a classic spy movie though. It's more psychological, and there is a lot of tenseful scenes, very sharp dialogues, and a lot of the movie is portrayed by George when he play games with his colleagues and fellow agents to figure out who the mole is. I went to see this movie in the Davis Theatre on the 21st of March with Josephine, who also takes this class. There wasn't that much audience except for us, maybe 15 to 20 other people. But I would say that there was a lot of expectations and a lot of, because the trailer was kind of action-filled and built up this sense of tension and expectations in there, I think. So there was a lot of expectations going into this movie. The theater in itself felt very American. I don't know how to explain that, but it felt very American. But at the same time very local, because it wasn't this glamorous big theater. It was a very kind of small theater, I think. There was a nice feeling to it, quite like the local theater we have back home, actually. Kind of the same in size too. I had a lot of expectations going into this movie, because it was the first movie I watched since the beginning of this year. I haven't been to any other American theater to watch a movie. I've been to some theater shows, but not to watch a movie. And I didn't really know what to expect from this movie though. One thing I noticed though was that here there is so much commercial before a movie, because I think it was supposed to start at like something 30, and there was like commercial for a solid 20 minutes before it started, which was kind of boring, but yeah. During the whole of this movie, there was this tense atmosphere, which was supposed to be there because it's a spy thriller. But it was like this continuously tense atmosphere, and you didn't quite know what to expect in the next scene. You kind of did like expect there to be some turning point though, because there never was any turning point, like big turning points. And there was like a good use of dialogue that pulled you into the movie, that really created this build up to every next scene. A kind of classical like spy movie process, I would say. But the thing with this movie is that there weren't any like real ending or climax. It was just that continuously building up this atmosphere that just didn't lead to anything. It was kind of a bummer, to be honest. Something that stood out to me though was the use of language, I would say, because it was very precise, very well thought out, and along with good casting and good directing, it kind of carried the whole movie. Because if you would have had like less good, worse dialogue, I think the whole movie would just be a kind of a disaster, because there wasn't any like main plot twists during the whole movie. Did I like the movie? I did not, because it didn't lead to anything. It was just this continuously creation and building up of attention in there. The just it didn't lead to anything. There wasn't any climax. The movie ends with the 6 main people being in dining room at George's house, and it just ends with a person dying. And that's like, I think in the whole movie 1 bullet is fired, which is kind of unusual for a spy thriller movie and not what you expected based on the trailer. So I would say it did not live up to the expectations. It was kind of disappointing in the end. I would say though that if you like movies or you just want to learn about how to create dialogues between characters, this would probably be a good movie to do that. To connect this to the class, there was a lot of focus on and a lot of carrying of magical items. Those items kind of carried the whole movie forward, along with the dialogue as well. But there was a few magical items that was more important than others. That was like key factors to finding out who the mole actually was. And that would be the case file that they use to just gain information about the whole cyber weapon. It would be George's watch, because he keeps a watch on him at all times. It would be a hidden flash drive, which he reveals in the middle of the movie, I think. It will also be Catherine's notebook, George's wife's notebook. We kind of suspect that maybe she isn't completely honest about everything. As I said, these magical items really help to carry the plot forward, and each of these items isn't like revealed from the beginning, but kind of revealed when the plot needs it to be revealed. Each item is a key factor to carry the plot forward. One common factor when each item is revealed, though, is that the tension seems to rise, and really creates this atmosphere that something is about to happen, which it sadly did not. Another thing that is kind of important to this movie is the usage of especially classical music, I think, because every time there is a dinner at George and Catherine's house, they play this kind of low volume classical music in the background, which kind of highlights the tension between each characters and the fact that they don't trust each other. So the importance of music is kind of huge in this film, and the usage of especially classical music is kind of common amongst other spy movies. And the last thing that is important in this movie to notice is the usage of different angles, especially the tilted and Dutch angle, and a lot of close-ups as well. And even though emotions isn't really something that is portrayed a lot of in this movie, the Dutch angles and the tilted angles especially really helps to make the tension rise in different scenes, and kind of highlights how these characters suspect each other and doesn't trust each other in the slightest. If you watch, for example, other movies he's made, Ocean's Elevens, especially, which is a spy trilogy, you can see that the same things is used in those movies, and yeah, that's just common thing to use in spy movies. All these things just help to exaggerate the tension and the atmosphere and feelings in each scene, and kind of makes you believe that something is about to happen. Similar to the usage of heat in, for example, 12 Angry Men, which we watched in class. These angles would be the parallel here. It would be instead of heat, they use these tilted angles to exaggerate scenes and the tension between the characters. If I had to choose one prop from this movie, I would probably choose George's watch, his wristband, because the fact that he can communicate through his watch is kind of cool, and I have one Apple Watch at home actually, and it sucks. The next movie I watched was the Minecraft movie, which is directed by Jared Hess, who also directed Mastermind from 2016 and Napoleon Dynamite from 2006. So the Minecraft movie follows 4 persons. First we have Gareth, which is played by Jason Momoa. We have Natalie, played by Emma Myers, Henry, played by Sebastian Hansen, and Dawn, played by Daniela Brooks. And basically the movie starts with Henry opening a portal to the Minecraft overworld. And they do this by having a certain key to the portal. And when they enter the overworld, they eventually lose the key, which now there's a problem, they can't get home. And by coincidence, they find Steve, played by Jack Black, which everyone who played the game Minecraft knows that Steve is the main character. So now they have a mission that by the help of Steve, they have to get back home by finding an alternative key to open the portal again. There is a problem though, that there is an alternative dimension in Minecraft called the Nether, and there is a queen of the Nether who also wants the key, because then she would be able to open the portal to the Nether and dominate both the overworld and the alternative dimension. So she is their common enemy. So their goal is to find the key, defeat the evil queen who constantly tries to murder them, and then get home. I watched this movie in the Landmark Theater of April 3rd, again with Josephine and another friend called Clara. And again, there wasn't a lot of people there, mostly younger teenagers and kids who just wanted to see the movie based on one of their favorite games, I guess. And this movie was smaller than the Davis Theater. It was more pricey as well, and it seemed quite run down. I guess because fewer people tend to watch movies in theaters, and that creates a lack of money, and then they can't do the proper maintenance to maintain the scenery of the movie theater, I guess. I would say though that the chairs in this theater was far better, because they were so comfortable. It kind of made you a bit sleepy, and Clara slept through like half of the movie, just to give you an example. Again, I was kind of disappointed at the end of the movie, because it wasn't all that I expected it to be. So cheesy dialogue and really bad acting just kind of ruined it for me. I didn't expect it to be a most serious movie, but the dialogue was just not there. And to be honest, Jason Momoa is a good actor. This was not his best role. And really that kind of stood out to me as well, that just how bad the acting was, I think. I know that it's directed towards a younger audience, but Jason Momoa can't be proud of his role, to be honest. And it was kind of similar to the game, I would say. Maybe not through the entire movie, but kind of similar to the game as well. With that said, I did not like the movie. Bad acting, bad script writing as well. It was kind of cheesy. I would also say the casting wasn't as good as it may have been. I don't think that Jason Momoa was right for that role. Jack Black was like kind of the only one who actually fit into their character. Would I recommend this movie? I would probably not do that. Clara slept through half of the movie, that's all I'm saying. Once again, to connect it to class, I would say that this time we had quite a strong female characters with a lot of interactions between each others, and more diversity than the movies before that I watched. There wasn't that much focus on angles as in Black Bag, but there were more stronger magical items in this movie, that because in each scene that they needed to have a solution to a problem, there was always this magical items, and Minecraft is all about crafting items, so it kind of makes sense to have a lot of magical items to carry the plot forward. Also, as we talked about last week in class, we talked about body cop movies. Kind of gives the same vibe here, as Barrett and Steve. They don't like each other at the beginning. They're forced to cooperate because Barrett wants to get home to his world. Steve wants to defeat the evil queen, and for that they have to cooperate to reach the goal. And in the end, they end up liking each other. But at the beginning, they don't have like any similar traits or characteristics. Should not be able to work together, but in the end, they kind of do. And we have some important B-roll plots. For example, Barrett is broke, needs money, and Steve has diamonds. So in order to help Steve defeat the queen, Barrett wants to be paid in diamonds, which he kind of kept a secret from the rest of the group. As we talked about in class, it's important to have these B-roll plots in a movie, because otherwise the movie gets kind of flat, the storyline doesn't kind of add up, and it's not that interesting to watch. If I had to choose one item from one prop from this movie, I would choose the Elytra, which is basically a flying cap, I think. It's, basically you can fly with it, so that would be pretty cool, I think. Thirdly, I watched Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, which is the first movie, directed by Gore Verbinski, who also done movies like The Moose Hunt, The Ring, or Rango. Okay, so the movie is basically about Will Turner falling in love with Elizabeth Swann, then Elizabeth Swann gets kidnapped by Hector Barbosa, who is the captain of the Black Pearl, and to rescue Elizabeth, Will Turner sets out on a mission alongside Jack Sparrow, and Jack Sparrow wants to get to the Black Pearl as well, because he's the old captain of that ship, and Barbosa took that position off him. I watched this movie in the evening in my dorm, so there wasn't that much sound, just kind of quiet. And I watched on my iPad on Disney Plus by myself. And to be honest, I kind of scrolled a bit whilst watching this movie because I've seen it 1,000 times, and I kind of know the like entire plot already. This is one of these movies for me that makes me feel kind of nostalgic because I watched it the first time when I was 13, I think. So kind of makes me nostalgic. It's quite an energetic movie as well, so you get kind of pumped up and just a nice watch, especially in the evening, I would say. It's a nice like energy booster. So some things that stood out to me during this movie, in particular this movie, but also the entire franchise, is the attention to detail. Because in every scene they plan something that makes the next scene make sense, or that is used in the next scene. So, and this could be like all from magical items to other props to the dressing, or the build up to different events. Also, the dialogue is really well fit. It fits perfectly into this kind of setting, and the casting is great as well, especially with Johnny Depp as Jack Sparrow or Keira Knightley as Elizabeth Swann. I could talk about this movie for hours. This is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Basically just because how the story draws you in. It's interesting from the first moment, the first time you see each characters, and the characters are very charismatic and interesting as well. And in my humble opinion, I would say that this is one of the best trilogies that is ever made. To connect this to class, once again, magical items is huge in this movie. Also, they plant several magical items in this movie that is used in the first movie, but also plays a huge role in the upcoming movies. So they kind of foreshadow a little bit. I also would say that each magical item in these movies kind of, because they belong to certain people, and the items kind of help to further develop their characters. For example, Jack Sparrow has a compass, which is introduced, that doesn't point north. So at first glimpse, it will be useless, but as explained in the second movie, I think it is, this compass does not lead. It's not a like normal compass. It leads to the thing you want most, and that is explained in the second movie, but it's introduced in the first movie, and because it's not explained in the first movie, this compass has a huge value, but not many people know about it. So it kind of carries the whole story forward, because with the help of this compass, Jack eventually will eventually find the Black Pearl. Another item that is really well used in this movie is Jack's pistol, which only has one shot. And with the help of this item, you kind of are introduced to Jack's point of the story, why he's introduced, because Jack wants revenge on Barbossa for kicking him off the ship, basically, for leading a mutiny against him. And Jack wants to shoot Barbossa, but then with the help of the compass, he can get to Barbossa, and this pistol kind of tells his story, and why he is interested in helping Will to find Elizabeth and the Black Pearl. Another thing that is huge in this franchise, the entire franchise, is the music. There is several great soundtracks in this film, and each especially the main theme, which everyone has heard. It's kind of creates this feeling that yes, something is happening. There is something epic that is gonna happen or is happening at the moment, and just the huge usage of music in this movie franchise. It's well thought of and really just brings the whole story together and carries it forward. It is also kind of a buddy cop movie. As I talked about earlier, we were introduced in class to buddy cop movies in Tango and Cash, for example, Thelma and Louise, and the cop duo here would be Will and Jack, because they don't like each other at all, but they need each other to each get what they want, so they have to cooperate. And later in this movie franchise, there is a lot of buddy cop alternatives, such as Jack and Barbosa, who in some movie has to cooperate to kill a common enemy. Jack and Lord Cutler Beckett, Will and Lord Cutler Beckett, and Barbosa and Davy Jones. Basically, there is a lot of people who cooperates. It is also a lot about men going on an adventure, and in the first movie, Elizabeth is the eventual prize for Will, and that is also kind of 80 themed. Like we talked about in class, it's a common 80s theme to have the girls as just an object or prize for the men to win, and especially in this first movie you can see that. Later on though, the first three movies really carries another theme, that is Elizabeth, her journey to independence and being one of the main characters, and it's quite an empowering subplot actually. And once again, the importance of good subplots in this franchise is shown again and again and again, because each character has their own mission, their own goal, and their own problems. For example, Jack's mission is to find the Black Pearl, become captain of it, and kill Barbosa. And Will is to find Elizabeth and to marry her, and to save her from Barbosa. If I had to choose one prop from this movie though, I would choose Jack's compass, because it would be pretty cool to just have, it just points to whatever you want most, and that would be pretty nice, I think. So as feedback on this class, I would say that something that stood out to me was definitely the way of teaching, and that's something I liked as well, because we had a lot of activities and we had to cooperate with other people in the class, and as much as I liked it, I did not like it as well, because I have to it's difficult when English is not your first language. I did like to cooperate with people though, because it really gives you their perspective as well, and it was kind of nice to have. I think that something that I would change in this class would be that more discussions about the movie we watched, because we do these brief discussions, and to learn more about the movies, especially I don't know a lot about 80s movies, so I would love to have more discussions and longer and deeper discussions about those movies.